Have you ever thought about the global flow of energy? The oil and gas that powers basically everything. Well, it's not just about supply and demand. It's really more like a massive, high-stakes game of chess. Every single move is tangled up in geopolitics, and things like conflicts and sanctions can flip the entire board in a heartbeat. Okay, let's dive right in.
So here's what we've got on tap. We'll start with a snapshot of the current world energy map to get our bearings. Then we're going to zoom in on the giants of the industry, the key players making all the moves. After that, we get to the heart of it all, how conflicts and sanctions stir up massive risk. And to wrap things up, we'll look ahead to the future of this constantly shifting game. All right, first up, let's get a lay of the land. What does the global energy market even look like right now?
So the big picture is this. There's still plenty of energy to go around, but how we get it and who's using it is changing, and fast. We're seeing this major shift toward unconventional sources like shale oil. And while oil demand in places like the US and Europe is kind of leveling off, it is absolutely booming in Asia. At the same time, natural gas, especially in its liquid form, LNG, is really taking off as a cleaner replacement for coal.
Okay, now let's meet the players, because if you want to understand who controls the world's energy, you've got to know who has the power to really move the market.
So just looking at these two lists, you can see the major power groups. Over on the left, you've got the heavy hitters in oil and gas production, your traditional powerhouses like Saudi Arabia, but also newer leaders like the USA and Canada. On the right, you have the key exporters of LNG. But you know what's really important? That overlap. Countries like the US and Russia are absolute giants in both categories, and that gives them just immense influence over the entire game.
Now, here's where it gets really interesting. There's a huge difference between producing a lot and just having a lot. This chart doesn't show who's pumping the most oil today. No, this shows who has the most just sitting in the ground waiting for the future. We're talking about proven oil reserves.
And just look at that number, 303 billion barrels. That's Venezuela. That's the largest proven reserve on the entire planet. I mean, to put that into perspective, it's more than Saudi Arabia, more than Canada. It's just a staggering amount of potential energy wealth, most of which is just sitting there, largely untapped because of all the political and economic challenges the country's facing.
So this brings us to a really crucial point. Having all that oil on the ground is one thing, but actually getting it out is another. This table shows who's really leading the pack in production. And notice who's right at the top of both of those columns? The United States. All thanks to its shale revolution, it's on track to be the world's #1 producer of both oil and natural gas.
Now let's move to the most unpredictable, most chaotic part of this whole chessboard. Let's look at how global conflicts and sanctions can just throw the entire energy market into total chaos. This is where the real volatility comes from. So what are the biggest risks out there? What are the kinds of events that can send shockwaves through the entire system and end up driving prices through the roof for all of us? Well, it really boils down to these 4 things. First, you've got the most direct threats, right? Regional conflicts, supply disruptions. Then there are political tools like sanctions, which can basically take a major producer completely off the board. And lately, we're seeing way more instability from climate events messing with operations, not to mention financial pressures from new ESG, that's environmental, social, and governance standards, which can make it way harder to get funding for new oil and gas projects. And this map just illustrates the real-world impact perfectly. When a country like Russia, a top producer and a key exporter of both oil and gas, gets hit with international sanctions, it doesn't just affect them. It fundamentally reroutes global energy trade. It creates massive uncertainty and price spikes all over the world. This quote just sums it all up, doesn't it? The price of energy isn't just some number on a screen. It's a direct reflection of this constant geopolitical tension. Every conflict, every sanction, every single political move just adds another layer of volatility. So when the board is this unstable, what in the world does the future hold? Where is all of this heading? Let's try to break down the outlook. So looking ahead to 2030, we can see 3 big trends taking shape. First, this whole energy transition thing is causing a split. Some countries are moving away from fossil fuels, while others are actually expanding their gas use. Second, those risks we just talked about, geopolitics, climate, they are not going anywhere. They're going to continue to be the dominant forces. And third, while LNG demand is definitely going to keep growing, the market as a whole is going to stay pretty volatile.
But even in this turbulent landscape, the chessboard is not static. Not at all. New players are making their moves. Down in South America, Argentina, powered by its massive Vaca Muerta shale formation, is just shattering production records. And you've got new LNG exporters like Guyana and Mozambique stepping onto the world stage, adding brand new dynamics to the global supply game.
So all of this, the old giants, the new players, the constant threat of conflicts and sanctions, it all leads us to one final, really crucial question. In a world that's defined by volatility, who is ultimately going to control the energy that powers our future?